The grand chamber of the Galactic Council descended into a tense silence as Ambassador Zexai rose from his seat. His normally vibrant blue skin had darkened a clear sign of stress among his kind. Curious gazes from the other council members met his movement, though a few bristled with irritation. This session was intended to focus on mundane matters, trade negotiations, and resource allocations. No one had anticipated the young Alteran would broach the forbidden topic. Honored Council. Zexai began, his voice steady, despite his evident unease. I wish to address the matter of the human quarantine zone. A wave of murmurs rippled across the hall, and several council members shifted uncomfortably in their places. At the head of the vast circular table, Senior Counselor Vorak's ancient eyes narrowed. His species, the Keth, were renowned for their longevity and sharp memories. With over 3 centuries of council service, Vorak carried the weight of history. The quarantine protocols are not subject to review, Vorak said, his gravelly voice carrying the weight of authority. They exist to ensure the safety of all civilized species. But Zexai did not yield. With respect, Senior Counselor, it has been 237 years since the quarantine's imposition. Many of us here today were not even born when these rules were enacted. We adhere to laws whose origins we do not comprehend, shaped by events we have never witnessed. The thermal delegate, a luminous crystalline entity radiating inner heat, spoke up. The records are unequivocal, young Alteran. Humans are violent, erratic, and dangerous. They attacked our vessels without provocation, rejecting all peaceful overtures. Did they? Zexai countered. I have studied the records. They are brief, vague, and provide no substantive detail. They cite human wars, but offer no context. They claim unprovoked aggression, yet lack corroborative evidence. So just to condemn an entire species on such a flimsy foundation? Gaseous? Entity from the ethereal consortium drifted closer, its shimmering form subtly shifting. Are you suggesting, Ambassador, that we disregard centuries of established policy? Zexai squared his shoulders, a determined resolve emanating from him. I suggest we scrutinize the evidence anew. My people have a saying, a law without understanding is tyranny. For centuries, we have enforced a quarantine over an entire sector of space based on the testimony of those long gone. Should we not seek to understand the reasons behind it? Oric's massive clawed hand struck the table with a resounding impact, the vibrations carrying throughout the chamber. You speak of matters beyond your comprehension, child, he growled. I was there. I witnessed humanity's nature firsthand. Their fleets tore through ours as if they were paper. Their actions defied every principle of civilized warfare. The elder Keth rose to his full height, his towering form casting an imposing shadow over the room. His eyes burned with memories of a time the others could only imagine the various species. Seated in the Galactic Council chamber knew fear, but rarely did it echo in their voices. Yet, when Senior Counselor Vorak spoke of humans, a subtle tremor betrayed something deeper, something primal. His species, like many others, were natural predators, honed by evolution on a harsh world. Even among fellow predators, humans were. An enigma, unnerving in ways words failed to capture. They do not think like us, Vorak continued, his tone heavy with restrained emotion. They do not act like any civilized species. What we consider order, they see as oppression. What we view as necessary control, they label tyranny. They are chaos incarnate, and chaos cannot be allowed to spread. Ambassador Zexai studied the elder's words, noting the mixture of passion and unease beneath them. Senior Counselor Zexai began cautiously. What exactly did the humans do that warranted such drastic measures? The records mention battles but fail to provide context or causes. The cause? Vorak's laughter was jagged, almost pained. The cause was their existence. Their mere presence in our galaxy disrupted the natural order. They challenged our authority, meddled in affairs beyond their place, and refused to acknowledge the hierarchy that sustains us. But surely, Zexai pressed, there were specific incidents, particular acts that justified such a severe response. Vorak turned away, his gaze fixed on the massive window overlooking the plaza below. Thousands of beings, representing hundreds of species, went about their routines, unaware of the debate above. To mock him? They've saved species that were meant to die? Vorak said softly, his words laced with venom. A ripple of unease spread through the chamber. Many council members exchanged wary glances. These revelations were absent from the official archives. "Excuse me?" Zexai asked, his confusion mounting. Vorak's voice remained low, almost as though he were confessing. On the outer rim, there were species, problematic ones. They consumed resources unsustainably, reproduced uncontrollably, and refused to integrate into the galaxy's structure. Difficult decisions were made to maintain balance. The temperature in the room seemed to drop, and Zexai felt a chill of realization creeping through him. The council authorized. He began, only for Vorak to cut him off. The council authorized nothing, Vorak barked, his voice cracking like thunder. No official orders, no written commands. But maintaining order often demands difficult actions. Species unable to adapt must yield to those who can. This is the natural law of the universe. A gaseous being from the ethereal consortium shimmered, its translucent form quivering in distress. "You saying these species were deliberately?" "I am saying," Vorak interjected, his tone sharpening, "that survival belongs to those strong enough to seize it and wise enough to preserve it. Humans refuse to accept this truth." Zex's pulse quickened as understanding dawned. The humans interfered with these fortunate events. "They did more than interfere," Vorak growled, his voice icy. "They actively opposed the natural order. Their ships arrived on worlds deemed expendable. They evacuated populations meant to vanish. It disrupted the galaxy's stability." The young Alteron felt a wave of nausea. "So the quarantine," he said, his voice trembling, "was not to protect the galaxy from humans, but the quarantine," Vorak said slowly, deliberately, "was to protect the work of civilization from their misguided defiance." Before anyone could respond, an urgent chime echoed through the chamber. The council's communications officer, a multi-limbed Nexus Collective delegate, activated the main display. Streams of data flooded the massive screen. Ask ChatGPT. The council chamber was bathed in the cold glow of the data stream flashing across the central screens. Symbols and messages in a dozen languages filled the display, the information cascading faster than the gathered minds could process. "Senior Counselor," the communications officer called out, his voice taut with tension. "Reports are coming in from our deep space monitoring stations. Long-range sensors have detected unidentified vessels in sectors 7G through 12M. Vorak's frown deepened. Unidentified. What is their origin? The officer's many limbs moved frenetically over the controls. "Unknown, sir, but the energy signatures, they match ancient human technology patterns." Chaos erupted in the chamber. Voices rose in fear and disbelief, creating a cacophony that drowned out reason. Only Vorak remained outwardly composed, though the unsheathing of his claws betrayed his unease. "How many ships?" he asked. The officer hesitated. "We're not certain. The contacts phase in and out of our sensors. Our systems can't get a definitive lock, but early estimates suggest hundreds, possibly thousands." Vorak closed his eyes, his weathered features etched with the weight of centuries. When he opened them, they bore the gravity of realization. "It appears," he said, his voice subdued, "that our quarantine has failed." "Yes." Skasai found his voice, though it trembled with confusion. "Failed? How is that possible?" "The barrier is maintained by automated systems. Nothing gets in or out." Vorak turned to the young Alteron, his expression shadowed with pity. "You still fail to grasp the truth? The barrier was never designed to keep them in. It was meant to keep us from seeing what they were doing beyond it." Before Zexai could respond, the communications officer spoke again. "Senior Counselor, additional reports are coming in. Human vessels have been detected approaching from Andromeda vectors. They've moved beyond the quarantine zone." "How far beyond?" Vorak asked, though his tone suggested he already dreaded the answer. The officer's voice wavered. "Sir, based on their spread, human ships appear to have been operating in what we assumed were empty sectors. Preliminary data suggests they've been out there for decades." Vorak nodded, slowly, as if affirming a long-held suspicion. Summon the defense fleets. Activate all long-range sensor arrays, and he hesitated, his shoulders sagging as though bearing the weight of another century. Prepare the council for an emergency session. After 2 centuries of silence, it seems humanity is ready to talk. Zex's gaze returned to the screens where streams of data revealed ships weaving through voids believed empty. These vessels carried technology that evaded the galaxy's most advanced sensors, hinting at preparation and patience that dwarfed his people's longest conflicts. "What have we done?" he whispered. Vorak overheard, his voice quiet but firm. "We did what we believed was necessary. The real question is what they've been doing while we weren't watching." That question, Zexai realized, would change everything. Commander Theisis checked her instruments for the 3rd time in 10 minutes. The readings remained unchanged, equally baffling. Her exploration vessel, Seeker's Pride, floated in the void near a dying red giant star. It wasn't the star troubling her, but the ship orbiting it. The vessel was unmistakably human. Its energy signature matched ancient records perfectly, but it wasn't supposed to be here. This sector lay far beyond the quarantine zone, in space, marked by the Galactic Council as empty and unexplored. "Status report," Theisis ordered, her voice tight. Her crew, a mix of species, moved quickly to comply. As a Velter, Theisis was naturally drawn to exploration, her ship, one of the fastest. In Council space, was built for missions like this, mapping the unknown. Yet this mission was anything but routine. "The human ship appears to be a research vessel," her science officer reported. The crystalline being's soft blue glow pulsed in time with its words. No detectable weapon signatures. There. Conducting active scans of the system, Theisis felt her neck frills, press flat against her skull, a sign of deep unease among her kind. "Have they detected us?" "Unknown, Commander," the officer replied. "They've made no aggressive moves and haven't altered their course." Her tactical officer, a heavily armored Koran, broke the silence. "Commander, protocol dictates we report this contact to Council Command immediately and maintain distance until a military escort arrives." Theisis nodded, acknowledging the correctness of the recommendation. The rules regarding humans were clear: observe from a safe range, report immediately, and under no circumstances engage. The silence on the bridge was tense as Commander Theisis weighed her options. Protocol dictated maintaining distance and reporting the human contact immediately. Yet the situation defied every expectation. Humans were supposed to be volatile and aggressive, so why was this ship behaving with such calm and hospitality? Her thoughts were interrupted by her communications officer. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel." The crew froze. First contact protocols had been drilled into them all, but no one expected humans to initiate communication. "Put it through," Theisis ordered, her voice steady despite her uncertainty. The main screen flickered, revealing the image of a human female. Middle-aged by human standards, she had short dark hair and kind eyes framed by simple corrective lenses. Her demeanor was disarmingly pleasant, and she smiled warmly. "Greetings," the woman began, her voice clear and welcoming. "This is Dr. Sarah Chen of the research vessel Endeavor. I hope we're not intruding. We noticed your arrival and wanted to extend a welcome to this system." Theisis stared at the screen, caught off guard. This wasn't the aggression or hostility the records had warned of. The humans spoke as though they were old acquaintances, exchanging pleasantries. "I am Commander Theisis of the Galactic Council vessel Seeker's Pride," she replied cautiously. "You are operating outside designated human space." Dr. Chen's smile widened. "Yes, I suppose we are. We've been studying this star for several months now. Its collapse pattern is unusual for a star of this mass. Would you be interested in our findings? We'd be happy to share our data." A soft sound of surprise escaped the science officer. Sharing data was common practice among Council species, but humans were supposed to be secretive and uncooperative. "You wish to share your research?" Theisis asked. "Of course," Dr. Chen said. "Science benefits everyone. We've made some interesting discoveries about stellar collapse mechanics that your people might find useful. And we'd love to learn about your ship's sensor capabilities. They look remarkably advanced." Thysis struggled to reconcile the human's words with the Council's dire warnings. Dr. Chen, are you aware that human vessels are not authorized to operate in this region? The human tilted her head slightly, as if contemplating an amusing question. Authorized by whom? This is open space, isn't it? We detected no claims or territorial markers. The Galactic Council established boundaries for human operations, Thysis explained. Ah, the quarantine zone, Dr. Chen said, nodding. Thoughtfully, yes, we're aware of that arrangement. Oh, we never agreed to it. We simply found it easier to work around it than argue over it. Work around it? Thysis echoed, confused. Well, space is vast, Dr. Chen replied. The quarantine covers human territory as it existed 2 centuries ago, but we've been rather busy since then. Before Thysis could probe further, her tactical officer interrupted. Commander, multiple contacts are approaching our position. Council reinforcements? No, Commander. The signatures are human. 3 ships emerged from behind the star's corona. Their advanced designs unfamiliar and unlike anything in the Council's database. Dr. Chen noticed Thys's expression. Oh, don't worry about them. That's my escort. Dr. Martinez, Dr. Okafor, and Captain Santis. We're part of a joint research expedition studying stellar phenomena in this region. Thys's blinked. Joint expedition? With our partners in the Terran Protectorate. It's a wonderful arrangement. We share resources and knowledge free, far more efficient than working alone. Protectorate, Thysis asked, her confusion deepening. Oh, yes, Dr. Chen said cheerfully. Our protectorate includes about 40 species now. Many were refugees from conflicts with the old galactic powers, but they've thrived under our system. It's a delight to see so many perspectives contribute to exploration and science. Thysis leaned closer. Dr. Chen, exactly how many human ships are operating in this region? The human woman considered for a moment. In this sector, perhaps a dozen? Across the outer rim? Several thousand, though not all, are technically human ships anymore. Many belong to our member species, which we've helped establish their own exploration programs. The communications officer whispered urgently to Thysis' commander. I'm detecting over 20 additional vessels in this system alone. They were hidden by the star's interference, but now that we know what to look for, ... A chill ran down Thysis' spine. Over 20 ships in a supposedly empty system, all cooperating on peaceful research, didn't align with anything the Council records described about human behavior. Dr. Thysis said carefully, would it be possible for a delegation from my ship to visit yours? We'd like to understand more about your operations here. Dr. Chen's face lit up with genuine delight. We'd be honored. Are rare, and we'd love to show you our work. You're welcome aboard the Endeavor. Our chef even makes excellent tea. Do your people drink tea? The air in the ancient archive felt heavier as Zex's mind raced to comprehend the implications of the revelations. The holographic display now projected vivid recordings, far removed from the sterilized battle footage in the public archives. These showed not an unprovoked human military rampage, but desperate, targeted actions aimed at saving lives. The first recording depicted a human fleet arriving at a planet already under Council siege. Massive Council dreadnoughts loomed over a city in flames. A human voice transmitted over the comms, "Cease your assault, or we will intervene." When the Council fleet ignored the warning, human ships engaged with breathtaking precision, disabling weapon systems without destroying vessels. Meanwhile, smaller human transports descended to the planet's surface, evacuating civilians amidst the chaos. These images, as Xi said, his voice trembling, do not align with the official records. They were rescuing people, not attacking. Indiscriminately. Vorak nodded solemnly. The Council chose to frame these actions as aggression. The narrative was easier to sell than admitting to the atrocities of our integration operations. The hologram shifted again, now showing Council fleets ambushing human convoys under the guise of defense. Humans fought back with superior technology but never escalated beyond necessity. In one clip, a human officer ordered his fleet to disengage. After disabling a Council force, leaving damaged ships intact, they even avoided annihilation, Sexai whispered. Humans have the capacity to destroy us, Vorak said, his voice heavy. Instead, They chose restraint even when they could have exacted revenge. The display dimmed, replaced by a final map showing the modern galactic territories. Vast stretches of space, once home to thriving civilizations, were now barren. Zex's skin darkened further in sorrow and anger. "How much has been lost?" he asked. "Too much," Vorak admitted. "Entire species eradicated, cultures erased, all in the name of stability." The humans' defiance was a mirror, showing us the ugliness of what we'd become. That's why they had to be silenced. Xai turned to face the elder counselor, his voice filled with conviction. "The truth must be revealed. Council cannot continue to hide behind lies." Vorak's expression softened, a glimmer of hope in his tired eyes. Revealing the truth will destabilize the galaxy. But perhaps it is time for the galaxy to face the chaos it created. As they exited the archives, Zexai felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. The knowledge he now carried would change everything, for better or worse. The humans had been vilified for their refusal to turn a blind eye. Now it was his turn to decide whether to uphold the Council's falsehoods or to challenge the very foundation of galactic civilization. The Council chamber was a storm of panic and disbelief. Thousands of ships hung just beyond the Council's core systems, their designs alien yet astonishingly advanced. Some bore faint echoes of human ingenuity, but many were utterly unfamiliar creations of species long thought extinct or erased. "Status. Report," Senior Counselor Vorak ordered, his gravelly voice cutting through the cacophony. The communications officer's limbs moved furiously across his panels. "Senior Counselor, we are receiving transmissions from the fleet. They're requesting permission to enter Council space for diplomatic purposes." Requesting permission? The thermal delegate, their crystalline body flaring in agitation, exclaimed, "They arrive with thousands of warships and ask permission?" The officer hesitated. "Sir, the transmissions are coming from multiple sources within the fleet. Many of the languages are unknown to our translation systems, but there are messages in at least 40 recognizable tongues." Ambassador Zexai stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Put one of the transmissions through. Let us hear what they have to say." A murmur of assent rippled through the chamber, though fear lingered in the air. On the main screen, the image shifted, revealing the face of a human male. His appearance was striking middle-aged, with silvered hair, but his presence commanded attention. Behind him, a diverse array of beings from numerous species stood, each carrying themselves with pride and dignity. "This is Admiral Nathaniel Hayes, of the Terran Protectorate," the human began, his tone even but resolute. "We come not as aggressors, but as representatives of a coalition formed in the pursuit of justice, cooperation, and survival. Our fleet seeks a diplomatic audience with the Council to address matters of profound importance." The chamber fell. Silent, Vorak's sharp eyes scrutinized the human, searching for any sign of deceit. "Admiral Hayes," he said, his voice carefully measured, "you arrive unannounced, in overwhelming numbers, and with ships that outclass our own. What assurance do we have that this is not a show of force disguised as diplomacy?" Hayes nodded, his expression unflinching. "Your concerns are understandable, Senior Counselor. We have no interest in conflict, but we will not shy away from defending our allies and ourselves. The Protectorate exists because of the Council's past actions, because you sought to erase us and those we saved. We are here to ensure that history does not repeat itself." Gasps and murmurs spread through the chamber. Zexai stepped closer to the display. "The Protectorate is real," he said softly, as if confirming his worst fears. "It is Hayes. Affirmed for over 2 centuries, we have built a coalition of species those you've tried to extinguish. Together we have flourished not through domination but through collaboration. We have created what you deemed impossible, a galactic civilization where the strong protect the weak and knowledge is shared freely." Vorak's claws tapped rhythmically against the table, a sign of his internal struggle. "What is it you want, Admiral?" Hayes leaned forward slightly. "We want the truth. We want the Council to acknowledge its history of oppression and genocide. And we want an end to the so-called integration policies that have caused untold suffering." A heavy silence fell over the room, broken only by the hum of the data stream. Zexai felt his skin darken with determination. He turned to the council. We have lived in a lie for far too long. It is time we face the consequences of our actions and seek a new path. Vorik's gaze shifted between Zexai and the Admiral. Finally, the old Keth spoke, his voice heavy with the weight of his years. Admiral Hayes, the Council will deliberate on your request. In the meantime, your fleet will remain beyond the core systems. Any act of aggression will be met with force. Understood, Hayes said with a slight nod. We await your decision, but know this, the Protectorate stands united. We will not be erased again. As the transmission ended, the chamber erupted. Into frantic debate, Zexai stood still, his mind racing. The truth was out, and there was no turning back. The galaxy stood at the brink of revolution, and what came next would determine its future. The chamber fell into an awed silence as the images continued to scroll across the screen. Worlds that defied conventional understanding of colonization, teeming with life and ingenuity, were displayed in stunning detail. Every habitat showcased not just survival, but thriving civilizations, an undeniable testament to the Terran Protectorate's vision. These are the worlds of the Protectorate, Captain Santos said, her voice steady with conviction. Places where the species you sought to erase have rebuilt their homes and cultures. They are free, independent, and flourishing because they were given a chance to thrive outside the shadow of your policies. Vorik's claws tapped nervously against the table. Captain Santos, he began, his tone wavering, this ... shadow. The galaxy of yours represents a fundamental challenge to the Council's authority. Are you here to overthrow us? The captain's gaze hardened. We are not here to overthrow anyone, Senior Counselor. The Protectorate does not seek conquest or dominion. We are here to ensure that the atrocities of the past are not repeated. We seek dialogue, not war. The ethereal delegate's gaseous form pulsed erratically, a sign of heightened distress. You claim to represent peace, yet you arrive with a fleet capable of annihilating our forces? How can we trust your intentions? Dr. Asante, still visible on the screen, answered calmly. The fleet you see is not a threat. It is a guarantee. It's a guarantee that no species under our protection will ever face eradication again. It is a shield, not a sword. Zexai, his skin darkened by the gravity of the moment, stepped forward. Captain Santos, if what you say is true, if you have built a coalition that values cooperation over oppression, then why reveal yourselves now? Why not continue your work in secret? The human woman's expression softened. 'Cause the galaxy is at a crossroads. We've seen the patterns repeating, the Council's policies leading to more integration operations, more species slated for extinction. We've also seen individuals like you, Ambassador Zexai, who question the status quo. We believe the time has come to give the galaxy a choice, continue down the path of suppression and control, or join us in building a future based on mutual respect and shared progress. The map reappeared on the screen, now highlighting regions where recent Council operations had displaced entire populations. These red systems represent the most recent victims of your policies, Dr. Asante explained. Their stories are still unfolding, but they are already reaching out to us for aid. If you truly wish to understand the consequences of your decisions, we invite you to visit these worlds and see the impact firsthand. Vorik's voice trembled as he asked, and if the Council refuses to cooperate, Captain Santos's eyes narrowed, and her tone grew colder. If you refuse, the Protectorate will continue its work without your involvement. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. But make no mistake, if you attempt to interfere, the days of hiding are over. We will defend our allies and our ideals. The room fell into a tense silence, each delegate grappling with the implications of the Protectorate's presence. Zexai turned to his fellow counselors, his voice resolute. We must face the truth. The Council's policies are unsustainable, and the galaxy will not survive another century of lies and oppression. It is time to choose a different path. Vorik's weary gaze met Zex's, and for the first time, The old Keth seemed truly defeated. Perhaps you are right, Ambassador. Perhaps it is time for the Council to change or to fall. Captain. Santos's voice cut through the silence one last time. We await your decision, Council. The galaxy is watching, and history will remember what you choose to do next. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned quiet, and the weight of the galaxy's future pressed down on every delegate. And Zexai knew that the days ahead would decide the fate of countless worlds. As the chamber buzzed with frantic discussions, Zexai sat in silent contemplation, the weight of the past and the looming decision pressing down on him. The truth unveiled through the sealed archives and the human's revelations had shaken him to his core. This was no longer about politics or survival, it was about morality, about the soul of galactic civilization. The vote, scheduled to take place in 1 hour, would decide the Council's response to the Protectorate's demands. On one side, there were those clinging to the old ways, arguing for military action to preserve their power. Coalition was forming, representatives from species long disillusioned with the Council's tyranny. Advocating for negotiation and reform, Zexai knew the stakes. A rejection of the Protectorate's terms could plunge the galaxy into a war that no one was prepared for, a war they might not survive. Vorak approached him, his usual authoritative demeanor replaced with weariness. Ambassador, the senior counselor said, his voice low, what do you intend to do? Zexai met his gaze, finding the courage he'd been searching for in the old Keth's tired eyes. Oh, I will vote for change, counselor. I cannot condone a system built on lies and murder any longer. We owe the galaxy and ourselves better than this. Vorak nodded, a glimmer of respect in his expression. I once believed in the Council's vision, that order required sacrifices, that peace demanded hard choices. But now, I see the cost was far greater than I ever understood. He hesitated, then added, you must be prepared for the consequences. If we choose negotiation, the Council's structure will crumble. The galaxy will fall into chaos before it finds a new path. Perhaps, Zexai admitted, but chaos is better than continued oppression. Perhaps this time, the Protectorate will show us how to rebuild something stronger, something just. The hour passed swiftly. Representatives returned to their seats, the chamber falling into an uneasy silence. The Council speaker, a towering being with luminous skin, stood at the center of the Great Hall. The vote will now commence, the speaker announced. Option 1. Reject the Protectorate's demands and prepare for military action. Option 2. Negotiate with the Protectorate and consider the cessation of integration operations. One by one, the delegates cast their votes, their choices appearing as glowing symbols on the chamber's central display. The tally grew, the room tense with anticipation. When the final vote was cast, the results shone brightly for all to see. Negotiation 61%, rejection to 39%. A murmur rippled through the chamber. The speaker raised their voice. The Council has chosen to negotiate with the Protectorate. May this decision guide us toward a new future. Zexai exhaled, relief mingling with apprehension. The path ahead would be difficult, but for the first time, he felt a glimmer of hope for the galaxy. The main screen flickered to life once more, revealing Captain Santos. Her calm, confident expression softened slightly as she observed the delegates. The Protectorate acknowledges your decision, she said. We will arrange for a summit to discuss the terms of our cooperation. Together, we can chart a course toward a better future. Zexai leaned back in his seat, the weight of the galaxy's history still heavy on his shoulders. But now, there was a chance, a fragile, precious chance that history could be rewritten. Elimination in just 12 years under the guise of ecological harmonization. He looked around the chamber, the reality sinking in with every passing second. For centuries, the Council had cloaked its actions in the rhetoric of order and progress, but beneath the veneer was a system of calculated extermination. This cannot stand, Zexai declared, his voice trembling with rage. We call ourselves the stewards of galactic civilization, but we are its executioners. How can we justify our existence when everything we've built is a lie? The chamber was silent except for the distant sound of protests echoing from the plaza below. Outside, the galaxy was waking up to the horrific truth of its rulers. Counselor Vorthok, now an old man weighed down by centuries of complicity, stood next to Zexai. The Council's survival is no longer the question. The question is whether the galaxy can survive us. Ambassador Yaren, of the Altrian Collective, stepped forward, her voice cutting through the heavy air. We must disband the Council. Its very existence is a stain on everything we claim to stand for. It's time for a new era, one not built on lies and blood. The Corin delegate slammed his armored fist onto his desk. And what then? Chaos. Anarchy. Without the Council, the galaxy will tear itself apart. No, Zexai responded firmly. Won't, because there is already another system in place, one that values cooperation in life. He turned to the screen where Captain Santos and Dr. Asante still waited, their expressions calm but resolute. We must formally recognize the Protectorate and its allies as the new stewards of galactic governance, Zexai continued. Have already succeeded where we have failed? It is time to step aside. The room erupted into chaos, but this time Zexai didn't falter. The people already know the truth, he shouted over the din. The galaxy is watching us. We cannot salvage the Council. All we can do now is ensure a peaceful transition. Captain Santos's voice cut through the noise. The Protectorate will not impose its rule by force. Our mission is to protect and guide, not dominate. We offer a partnership, not conquest. Vorthok raised his hand for silence. A vote, he said, his voice heavy with finality. Must decide. Dissolution of the Council and recognition of the Protector, yes or no. The delegates hesitated, but one by one they cast their votes. The decision was clear. Yeah, 68% no to 32%. As the results were displayed, a wave of unease swept through the chamber. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Council would no longer rule the galaxy. Captain Santos spoke once more. You have chosen wisely. Protectorate will work to ensure stability during this transition. Together, we can create a galaxy where diversity is celebrated, not feared, where every species has a place. Zexai watched as the Council's insignia was removed from the chamber walls, placed by the emblem of the Protectorate, a circle of stars surrounding a single unbroken line. It was a symbol of unity, not uniformity. The era of the Galactic Council was over, but for the first time in centuries, hope shone brightly across the stars, a quiet station orbiting a distant star. The once powerful figure now lived a life of obscurity, stripped of authority, and surrounded by reminders of the system he had upheld for centuries. His days were spent in reflection, reading reports of the galaxy's rebuilding efforts and watching as species long thought extinct took their places in the new galactic assembly. The apartment was sparse but comfortable, a far cry from the opulence of the council chambers. One morning, a soft chime announced a visitor. Vorthok opened the door to find Zexai standing there, holding a datapad. Ambassador Vorthok greeted him, his voice carrying the weight of guilt. Not anymore, Zexai replied with a small smile. I'm just Zexai now. The assembly doesn't use titles like the old council did. Vorthok nodded and stepped aside, inviting him in. I wanted to share something with you, Zexai said, placing the datapad on the table. The screen displayed a map of the galaxy, now marked with the new assembly's territories. Worlds that had once been erased were now vibrant and thriving, marked with names and cultures that had been restored. The Zalani, the Vashi, the Gorlani, they're rebuilding, Zexai continued. For the first time in centuries, their children are learning their own histories instead of the lies we told them. The assembly is helping them heal. Vorthok stared at the map, his claws tapping lightly on the table. And the others, he asked quietly. The ones we couldn't save? Zexai's smile faltered. They're gone, and we can't bring them back, but their stories are being recorded and shared across the galaxy. No one will forget them. Ever. Silence filled the room for a moment before Zexai spoke again. You did the right thing, Vorthok. In the end, you chose truth over power. That matters. The old Keth shook his head. I spent centuries upholding a system that destroyed lives. Single act of redemption doesn't erase that. No, Zexai agreed. But it's a start. As Zexai left, Vorthok turned back to the map. He traced a claw over the names of the restored worlds, feeling the faintest glimmer of hope. The galaxy was far from perfect, but for the first time in his long life, he believed it had a chance to become something better. In the years that followed, the Galactic Assembly grew into a beacon of cooperation and resilience. The Protectorate stepped back from governance, becoming advisors and protectors rather than rulers. Species once condemned to extinction flourished, and the shadow of the old council faded into history. And on a quiet station orbiting a distant star, a former senior counselor found solace in watching the galaxy he had once failed begin to heal.